If you have to get up and go, just go ahead.
So before we get started, who do we have on the line? Who's joining us via Zoom or phone?
Oh, Aaron.
Oh, hi, Aaron.
Hi.
And you're Bruce.
Should be the other one. Yeah.
And Bruce, are you there as well? Maybe muted. Well. All right. I'm going to call this September 2nd meeting of the Seward Port and Commerce Advisory Board to order. Mr. Smith, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, great to see you. Roll call, please.
Paquette? Present. Lemus? Hughes? Hughes?
Yep.
Oh, he's there too. Lawrence?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Jaffa?
Here.
Chair Snyder?
Here.
You have a quorum, Chair.
Thank you so much. All right. That brings us to citizens' comments on any subject except those items scheduled for public hearing. Do we have any public comments?
Yes. So, Phil Kaluza sent you all an email, but he did ask that I go ahead and read it as well. So, to PACAB chair and members, I commend the PACAB for its continued support for supporting renewable energy and updating our interconnection policy. An update on my PV system. November 2019, my PV system was inspected and approved by the Seward Building Department. May 15th, 2020, John Fouts and staff finally inspected my PV system and verbally approved the system to be interconnected with the understanding the meter needs to be replaced with one programmed for net metering. John noted until such time any excess power being generated will not be credited. This was better than having the system sit idle on the roof with benefit to no one or the environment. May 26, 2020. I received an email from John Fouts stating he would have the meter swapped out the following week. It never happened, no explanation given. This was the last correspondence received from John prior to his departure. June 19th, 2020. I sent a letter to the city manager requesting an update on my meter changeout. No response or action taken. A summer has gone by and I have donated a considerable amount of my kilowatts per hour generated to the community. Not the worst thing, but there's no incentive for anyone to invest thousands of dollars in PV solar if the utility refuses to comply in a timely manner with the net metering ordinance in place. Proposed solar electric installation checklist. I have just briefly looked at the checklist and questioned why we are going down this path. Do the other railbelt utilities building departments have such a form? The Seward Interconnect Ordinance calls for an application to be submitted, not a checklist. I have no problem with departments having internal checklists to work from, but they should be internal documents, not mandatory requirements that need to be formally updated as building codes and industry standards change. Our existing checklist is a perfect example of planned obsolescence and a deterrent. I recommend we follow the lead of other utilities, Homer Electric for example, on establishing a simple application form. Why create new documents when existing ones that have proven to work readily exist? Referencing building codes that address the equipment and installation requirements are fine. If the code is updated in the future, the application form remains current. Many, if not all, of the items on the checklist are referenced by code. Why not simply refer to that code or state all current building codes apply? Again, I have no problem with developing a best practices guide, but that is readily available online. A good example is the specific materials to be used as fasteners and mounting rails. I believe the building codes thoroughly address structural, corrosion, and durability issues. What if a new mounting system is made of a strong, durable composite material and becomes the new construction standard that is engineered, tested, and accepted by national code? It would be disallowed in Seward. I also object to disallowing perfectly good used PV hardware that meets all current codes. Where is that in the code? Why go there? How complicated do we need to make a PV installation? Whatever happened to acceptable industry standards that comply with code? I believe the application form should be simple. The building department assures code compliance with the installation. They decide how much detail is necessary for review. The electric utility assures interconnect equipment meets current safety and power codes and standards. Applicant applies for a conventional building permit and a review of proposed PV system and specified site interconnect concerns, transformer size, etc. by the utility as is done everywhere else in the world. Presently, approximately 1/3 the cost of a PV system is the marketing and building permits. Streamlining the permitting and approval process will reduce cost and promote renewable energy. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. I suggest we follow the leaders in the industry and try to stay caught up.
Thank you. And is that the only comment that we have?
That is the only citizen
Okay.
comment received, yes.
All right, thank you so much. Approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda.
Okay. Any discussion on the agenda?
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to point out real quick the reasoning for the rescheduling of the October 21st work session to October 14th. Due to COVID, we're having to have our absentee in-person voting down here instead of in the clerk's office. And instead of taking a lunch break, they kind of overlap during lunch. So it would interfere with them if we were in there on that date.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Can you also just make a quick note about the 2014 and the 2016 minutes that are on the consent agenda?
They're not on there anymore. So they
Oh,
were
okay.
originally, but we decided that it wouldn't be fair to this board to have to approve those when a lot of you weren't even on the board at the time.
Got it.
So I constructed those using the audio recordings, and then we just signed them and put them in legislative history.
Perfect. My bad. It's just on this copy of the agenda that I have. Thank you so much. All right. Could we take a vote, please?
Do we have a second?
Oh, we need a second. Thank you so much. Who would like to second the motion?
I'll second the motion.
All right. Thank you, Board Member Smith. Goodness.
So approval of agenda and consent agenda. Jaffa,
Yes.
Paquette,
Yes.
Hughes,
I don't think Hughes was there. I think that might have been Jaffa saying present.
okay.
Yeah.
Lemus,
Yeah.
Lawrence,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Chair Snyder.
Yes.
The agenda and consent agenda has been approved. On the consent agenda is the approval of the June 3rd, 2020 regular meeting minutes and rescheduling the October 21st, 2020 work session to October 14th, 2020.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, special orders, presentations, and reports. We have the Alaska Railroad report written in our packet. Will Mayor Terry be joining us via phone?
Telephonically.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, we're still here.
Hello, this is Christy.
Hey Christy, it's Jessica. I'm with the Port and Commerce Advisory Board, and we are ready for your report on the Alaska Railroad.
Great, so if the board wants to take a look, I did submit a written report. I just have a couple updates. So, under ongoing and upcoming events at the cruise ship terminal, I did want to, I was talking about McKeely. I don't know if the board had heard that they had a small engine fire off the coast of Kodiak, and they actually went straight to Seattle. So, not that I wish them anything bad, but I wish that would have happened at our dock. I have a feeling they would have stuck around longer. But McKeely did have a good time while they were here. I didn't hear any concerns from the community. And then the last update I have is I just had a meeting this morning with CLIA that included representatives from other port towns, represented all the lines, RCCL, NCL, MSC, and they talked about their current operations happening out of Greece and Germany and Italy. The board's probably heard of, some of the early attempts out of Northern Europe, but they are actually having ships running successfully. They've had 3 to 6 sailings, and they're really dialing in on their protocols and procedures. And then based on that, they're doing great collaboration with DEC on what those protocols could look like for sailings in 2021. They just want to make sure that it's a win-win for all the communities and the industry, so they're all playing in the same sandbox. They're not keeping any trade secrets. So what's a success for one is a success for another. And just wanting, like I said, the community, the industry, the guests, and the crew all to be able to be back up and functioning successfully in 2021. So I'll have more information on that as that moves forward. And then I think that's all I have. If there's any questions.
Any questions from the board?
So there won't be a holiday fair this year, is that right?
Yeah, so I've had a number of cancellations. Music festival has already canceled. Holiday fair is canceled. I've reached out to the city and they're not quite sure yet about their Halloween event. We're still a couple months out, so they're just playing by ear. Serves that was scheduled in the spring and quote-unquote rescheduled for the fall, they have no intention to do that this year. They'll be looking for their spring event in 2021. So that's where we're at right now.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much, Christy, for joining us.
Okay, thank you. You all have a nice day.
You as well. Okay, Chamber of Commerce report.
Hey Jason, it's Jessica. I'm with the Port and Commerce Advisory Board, and we are ready for your Chamber of Commerce report.
All right. Yeah, it's good to I'm watching you guys on YouTube right now, so it's good to see you guys back in session. Yeah, just a few highlights from my report. One is that we're excited for kind of moving forward with our website and also kind of some printed materials as well. And I think it's really great that we're going to be focusing on a marine piece of that. That's going to be a big thing, and so hopefully be all-encompassing and represent Seward, both the ports, harbor, and kind of a marine industry, both with a web base and some really great printed materials that we can use at things like the Pacific Marine Expo. Unfortunately, it won't be this year just because, for those of you who may not know, that was just recently canceled the other day officially. Also, too, we're going to be really focusing on Seward as we're going to try to promote directly to Anchorage and the Valley Seward as a conference destination. We feel like there's a lot of businesses that are kind of transitioning and becoming kind of more permanently remotely working. We feel like conferences are actually when people can gather safely at conferences will be a really good thing to help develop more kind of year-round sustainable business. And these difficult times. And so that's, we feel that shows, kind of demonstrates that we are a value to our businesses, and hopefully we can continue to become more valuable to them. So, yeah, that's about really just a couple of things I wanted to highlight there. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Any questions for,
Jason, this is Bruce Joppa. I have something. Obviously, it's a crystal ball of what's going on into 2021. And is the general strategy to assume 2021 is going to find normalcy? That's the first question. The second is, do you interact with the Moose Pass Chamber? It's a small group, but the East Peninsula seems to be lumped together in all kinds of tourist brochures, et cetera. So I'm curious as the relation you might have with the Moose Pass Chamber.
Yeah, sure. To answer your first question is, we are not forecasting next summer to be back to normal. I just actually got off the phone. I had a phone call yesterday afternoon with Alaska Airlines, and really looking at just the overall like air travel and airline capacity. All the airlines in the next couple months are doing pretty massive kind of like permanent downsizing and layoffs. And so I talked to Alaska Airlines yesterday and said, so we're seeing all this stuff. What is that like? What kind of capacity diminishment overall for airline travel is that going to mean for next summer? And kind of long story short, it's like they're looking at running at about next summer at about 60% of what they were running in 2019. And so we see a pretty significant diminishment in some air travel. If we also look at the cruise lines, kind of best case scenario is that we will have fewer ships, and those ships will be less full. And so those two things put together is we are not looking at a normal summer next year, and we're obviously like making plans around that. And obviously doing the best we can to continue to market to those people who will be traveling. But also to strengthen our other legs of our economy, just so that we can kind of keep things going in those diminished capacities that way. So, and as far as the Moose Pass Chamber, we are not in. I would say we're not in a relationship with them. We are. I'm on the board for KPTMC, Canada Mill and Steel Marketing group there, and so I work pretty significantly with the other chambers through that group. And I know sometimes that there are people that are involved from some of the smaller communities in that, but we don't necessarily directly have a relationship with the Moose Pass Chamber.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions? Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good day.
Yep, you as well.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, and just one thing to highlight from what he said, the new fish boxes that Catalyst made, just a shout out to them. If anyone saw those during the Silver Salmon Derby, those fish boxes are awesome. Okay, harbor report. Harbor Master.
Good afternoon. Anyway, so you have my report in harbor. I'm going to start off by introducing Steve Saul. He's the new assistant city manager. So, hello.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you. So a couple things extra. So I will not be here on October 21st. I'll be on vacation. And I know I have it in my report that 2 of the dumpsters are here, but all the dumpsters are here now and 4 of them are in place, and we have to fix 2 more and put them in place. And then the other ones hopefully will be welded up by AvTech students as a training tool, reading blueprints and how to weld them up by the blueprints and stuff. So working with AvTech on that. So I'm going to take any questions.
Awesome. Any questions for the harbor master?
So you'll be here for the 14th?
I will not.
Oh, because you said you wouldn't be here for the 21st, but we moved it to the 14th.
Yeah, well, both weeks, sorry. Thank
Okay.
you for clarification.
Thank
This is Bruce. Norm, thanks for everything. I did have a reason to visit the Jag shipyard just recently, first time in a long time, and my drive around the entire facility, shows the promise of what we had all hoped for. And with the Navy ship coming in there, it'll require additional fine tuning of your infrastructure that I know you will rise to the occasion. So I just say kudos to the Harbor Department for their work, and I think with the volatility of our whole economy, we're really blessed to have a broad structure, including the harbor. So it's encouraging to see that. Thanks.
So we're on top of that too, so we've been working with JAG, on their additional security they have to do over there, and actually clean up along their fence. They'll be parking along the fence there for additional parking. And then thanks to the Public Works crew, they actually redid the road going around, so we keep the traffic from going through our shipyard to go all the way around. So that's a nice asset there, and yeah, it's a good thing over there. It's gonna be exciting, and the yard over there, I don't know if Bruce, so you went over there last week, but I think we're gonna have really close to a full yard, if not completely 100% full. So there's a lot of people coming out to do work and stuff like that. So if you haven't been over, I know Chair Snyder's over there every day, and she sees the yard, how full it is, and I got a response the other day about how nice it is to see all those boats over there working. So it's a great addition over there. Done a lot of work, so, and thanks to everybody in the community that's been helping with that.
Any other questions for the Harbor Master? I'd just like to congratulate JAG on that contract. That is going to be so great for the community and also for them. So big congratulations to them. And also to the harbor staff. I mean, I've heard stories about what SMIC used to look like, and you guys have done such a great job of getting things cleaned up over there. It's a good environment to work in, so thank you for all your hard work. Anything else for the Harbor Master? Okay, we have no other reports, announcements, or presentations. We have no unfinished business, so under new business, that brings us to nominate and elect a commissioner as chair. Madam Clerk, do you want to lead the charge on this?
Well, pretty simple, just if a board member wants to nominate the chair, then we can do it.
Do we have voting slips or?
We do,
But-
but that's gonna be kinda difficult with people on the phone.
Yeah,
That's why I
you're
was gonna
right.
just see how many nominations we got and then go from there.
Roger, okay.
I'll
Would
nominate.
anyone like to?
So I'll nominate Laura for chair. Does anybody want to second that?
Second. So, if that's what we need.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
okay.
Any other nominations? I feel like I should pass the gavel for this.
So if that's the only nomination, then we can just vote on reappointing you as chair.
Okay,
So reappointing Laura Schneider as the PACAB chair. Jaffa,
Yes.
Paquette,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lemus,
Yes.
Lawrence,
Yes.
Hughes is not here, Chair Snyder.
do I vote? Yes.
This has been approved.
Okay, thank you all. I can't believe it's been a year. Where has this year gone? Okay, nominate and elect a commissioner as vice chair.
No.
And if I may, I would like to nominate Mr. Jaffa to continue his term as vice chair if he so chooses.
I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations?
Okay,
So appointing Bruce Jaffa as vice chair. Lawrence,
Yes.
Lemus,
Yes.
Paquette,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Jaffa,
Yes. abstain?
Chair Snyder?
Yes.
Alright, so this has been approved.
All right. Commissioner Jaffa, thank you so much.
Thank you. This probably will be my last year as a vice chair at least.
Well, at least we've got you for another year. Thank you. Thank you for your time
We
and energy.
appreciate your service.
So that brings us to our next item, provide recommendation to council on high vessel property tax. Now, it seems like the spring was so long ago, but I know that I believe when we last met and we were discussing this, we got some really good information from the harbor master and from finance. And my recollection, and I'd like to make sure that this is what the whole board remembers, is that we came to the conclusion that that changing the way that the vessel property tax is calculated would amount to a huge revenue loss for the city, especially in a year like COVID. I'm adding that to our current circumstances, is maybe not the best path forward. Harbor Master?
So it's a revenue loss to the general fund.
Yes. Yeah. Revenue loss to the general fund, not specifically to the harbor. It would be a general fund loss. I think the other important thing to note that we learned was that we're not out of line with most other communities, that it seems that Homer is one other community, I believe, is an exception to the way that the tax is calculated.
I believe it's Kenai.
Kenai, okay. But I'd like to hear the board's thoughts on this. I know this has been an item that has been on our priorities for a few years now, and I feel that we finally have the information in front of us to provide a good final recommendation, which I believe I'm writing in your next packet. I have a written report going before council, and I had planned to maybe put a line item about this in that report that I give to council. So I'd just like to have a discussion about what you guys think that recommendation should be. Any thoughts?
So Madam Chair.
Yes.
So I might want to start off and help out things here. So we have a waiting list for all the slips. If we didn't have a waiting list, and I can see we attacked this, as administration's thing, I think we're okay. Of course, it's just my not my decision, but my recommendation.
Right.
That we leave it as, if we don't have a wait list, then I can say we challenge it.
Right. Right, because it's not that we're not lacking in boats that want to be here.
Correct.
For the winter. I think that I do want to continue though, and I know that you do this because of who you are, but I think that it would be great if there was, if we made sure it continued forward, that we give those vessel owners the recommendation to appeal the valuation on their boats. I think that is a valuable resource that we can provide for the vessels that are here for the winter. So I'd like to see that continue. Thoughts from the board? Yeah.
I have a question for the harbor
Commissioner
master.
Lentz.
You said that there's a wait list for all the slips, but do you have any idea how many large vessels, transient, we may have lost to other ports because of the high rate?
I don't have the number of how many boats that not come here. I know of a few boats that go to Homer, and they get put up on the beach there or whatever in the port. But we do have a lot of vessels that come in the winter. A lot of the barges come here and they're really large and they take a big hit on taxes. But I tell them appeal and it always lowers. I really don't know the total number of boats we lose.
And you know, that's the, oh yeah.
There's always going to be, in my opinion, there's always going to be a question in a taxpayer's mind about whether they're paying a fair tax and if they can get a better break someplace else. So I think there's always going to be some leaving, some coming. The basis that I see that you're using for valuation, it makes sense. You know, as long as the expense of providing the service is closely covered by the revenue received. And if it's not received, then it becomes public policy about whether the city from some other fund wants to subsidize it. But everything that I've seen is the revenue generated by the rates covers most of the harbor expenses. Am I correct in that?
The mortgage, through the chair, the mortgage covers all the harbor expenses. We also have leases in there, all that harbor revenue. So, but like I said, the taxes go towards the general fund. The harbor does not keep any of those taxes.
Yeah, I know that was part of the discussion that we had before, was if there was any way to allocate any of those funds to the Harbor Enterprise Fund, but I think that the conclusion we came to is that that's really not allowed by code, that those taxes go into the general fund, and because, or what was your take on it?
Well, we also pay additional tax to the general fund. So we pay a payment in lieu of taxes, and that percentage, I'm not sure what it is, but it goes to the general fund. And then, of course, all the personal property taxes, for people that live in Anchorage or whatever, they have a vessel here, they pay the personal property tax. So.
Right.
So then it becomes, if it's Bruce Shop, so then it just is a matter of establishing a fair and commonly agreed to rate. And that's what your spreadsheet and your method seems to do. And discussions about comparison to other communities is interesting, but it's hardly irrelevant as long as you're being fair and have an established criteria. That would be my opinion.
Okay. So it looks like from this email that the tax, there's a flat tax assessed by the borough, and then the city tax is on top of that at the mill rate. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct. That's for every harbor.
For every harbor. Okay, so the portion of that Seward potentially has control over would be the city's amount, and this mill rate is this is the same as for all property taxes. So it just is in line with the rest of the property taxes. And this email says they're not even sure that that finance would permit a different mill rate for personal and real property. So I guess, it's the reason I still want to make a recommendation, even though my feeling is our recommendation is to leave things as they are. But since it is something we considered, I'd still like to have the board vote on a motion to recommend that to council. Board Member Paquette.
I would also like to leave this open, like I'd like to revisit this in a year. So as long as we make that recommendation with the caveat that we're going to look at it again in a year and see where things are, then I agree. At this point, I don't want to change anything right now. So.
I have a suggestion for, so we're recommending provide recommendation to council on the value of the tax, and I think what we've discovered here is just getting to the bottom of it is, this has been on here for a while, and we're still not quite there yet.
Yeah.
So one of my thoughts would be to recommend to council that they produce a report that they can send out to people that pay this tax on how it's spent and how it's apportioned. As that would help me. The first time I got a tax bill, I was like, what is this for? I already pay a harbor fee, right?
Right.
And that would help us understand. It would help boat owners understand. And also, I think Board Member Lawrence brought this up, that the higher vessels are maybe paying a more significant portion of tax, on however they feel, right? I mean, they're trying to make a living doing this, and if there's something we could do to help them out to encourage that traffic. But yeah, as far as the values and the assessment and the mill rates, I would agree. I think the general consensus is, leave it as is.
Right.
But
So
more information.
Your recommendation is more information, and I'm wondering if that can be accomplished at the harbor level. I know your packet is already so long. But what are your thoughts on that
So if you go to the borough website, it'll tell you what personal property tax and how it's.
and how it's apportioned, right?
I
And
believe
that,
It should be in the city code also, how personal property tax is, why it's attached to the mill rate.
right.
So it should be there.
And that gets a little tricky when it goes into the general fund. It's hard to say what it's for because it's for everything. It's to support city services. They're here utilizing the city services, and so it goes back into the general fund, which helps the city to continue to exist. I know that's not specific enough for a lot of people, and I would love it if we could drill it down further. I think it would be so poetic if all the vessel property taxes could go into the harbor fund and could help to build the harbor infrastructure, but unfortunately that's not how code is written or how it works. So I'm not sure we'd be able to give people the level of detail that they would desire there. I think, it goes into the general fund, which can be used for a variety of different reasons.
Right, but
So-
if we're bringing this to the floor for public discussion, that would be a topic that I think could be brought up. There's other ways, this is basically revenue generation, right? So, that's getting pretty political, I suppose, at that point.
Yeah, I guess not so much political as just, I don't understand I'm just remembering, I don't understand I don't know all parts of city code, but I'm remembering from our discussion in the spring, they said that there are lines in code that say you can't take specific taxes and put them towards specific things. When it goes to the general fund, it goes to the general fund, and that gets a portion of the budgeting process. So the budgeting process is when you get to have your say about where that money goes. But not where specific income sources go unless they're enterprise funds. So I just am not sure that that's even a possibility, but it might be something that, and budgeting time, we take these numbers and we say, hey, vessel property tax is bringing in this much. So we think that the budget deserves to be increased by this much because, the harbor, all the vessels that are utilizing the harbor services are. But I think that's a budget time discussion, in my opinion. Anyone have any thoughts on that? I really like your idea. I just don't know that it's possible to get it at this time. Drill down any further than the general fund. But just information and understanding that the vessel property tax is going to be assessed and what to do when you receive that bill, which again, the Harbor Master's office does a wonderful job of doing, but I'm not sure if that again is just because Norm is so on top of things, or if it is something that's part of procedure. And I guess I'd just like to make sure that some of these good things that are happening continue to happen even when we someday unfortunately lose you, if you decide to retire.
So these property taxes, so you got police, fire, water, sewer. We don't charge for sewer in the harbor. We don't charge for water in the harbor. It's all part of the, the whole keep coming in, and so.
Yeah.
I don't know where to go with this. I talked to Homer, they were talking about raising their rates. I don't know if they did or not. So, and I know, of course, Sitka is definitely raising all their stuff way up because they were really cheap. So, of course, that's way east, but I know Cordova's raising their rates, Valdez is gonna be raising their rates because they're losing some oil funding. So, I think we're gonna be in line. I'm not sure we're all gonna be on the same, property tax level. But, we are with, I believe the Nilchik. See, Kenai is not, part of it Kenai is, and they get to the higher vessel, it changes, I believe it was in that. So,
You mentioned budget time. Is there not a budget period of review coming up this fall? So we set budget last year, and
The
don't
mid-budget
we
review?
always do a mid-budget review? So do we want to be prepared to look at that when that happens this fall? Or do we want to wait
well,
till the next budget
we could
cycle?
look at it, but I just know that the general fund is taking a huge hit this year.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know how it's gonna work next year. We don't, I mean, nobody's
Right.
crystal ball's going
Right.
out there, so. But we can look at it. I mean, if you wanna adjust the mill rate, I don't think the mill rate wants to be adjusted because that's housing, so you have to split it between personal property. But like they said, then that's done through the borough finance department, not the cities.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that what Board Member Paquette is referencing, if I'm understanding you correctly, is more just talking about, well, at budget time, we say, hey, this is the amount brought in by the property tax, so we'd like to see some of these resources go to places that that these vessels are actually utilizing, sewer, water, things, parts of the general fund that, that need those funds. Even
Right.
if it's in a more general sense, so they can't really say, okay, these specific dollars are going here, but it's kind of a leverage tool, saying, look at all this money being brought in by these vessels, and that's being supported by the harbor, so we need to take some of that money, and that makes it so that this increase they're asking for makes sense, so let's give them this that they need to be successful.
Just to be, we're not increasing nothing.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah,
just
no,
like-
I know, and especially at this I think that at this mid-cycle review, because the general fund has taken such a
Right,
hit, we're not
right.
gonna see
Oh, no,
lots
we
of
won't.
requests.
Right.
But how about we do what you said, and just when we're setting our priorities this fall, let's make sure that we just put this as a review item for next year. And we'll revisit this before budget season next
Right.
year.
Okay.
So at this time, I would like to make a motion that the Port and Commerce Advisory Board recommends making no changes to the vessel property tax at this time, and leave it at that.
Second, first job, the second.
Okay. Any discussion on that specific motion?
Should we just recommend no comment, or?
I may provide a little explanatory comment in my write-up for council.
So no change is different than no opinion, I guess, is where I'm going with that.
I guess we're stating that our opinion is to make no change.
Okay.
Because I think we have opinions. Well, how would you word it? What do you propose?
There's a word for that, but just, it's not table, but, maybe Jessica could help with it.
I gotcha.
But yeah, just, recommend no modification or no, say no changes. I think that implies that, we're saying it's good where it is versus we don't really have a strong opinion one way or another.
I gotcha.
I'm sorry.
No,
lack
I
of
understand what
words.
you're saying. You're saying that saying to leave it is making an opinion that where it's at is good, whereas
Yeah.
what you're feeling is more that we just don't have enough information to assess it at this time, so
Well, that's how I feel about it. I
We're
can't. I couldn't
postponing our
say-
we're
recommendation. How's
postponing our
that?
recommendation. Okay. Let me think about how to. So, can you read me back what I said for my motion?
So the Port and Commerce Advisory Board recommends making no changes to the high vessel property tax.
How about, I propose an amendment that says, at this time pending further review.
I like that.
And, Bruce, do you, as my second, do you approve that amendment?
I do, Chair Snyder, I agree as the second. Yes.
Okay.
I
Okay.
would like to speak on the motion.
Oh, yes, please.
We're gonna have a challenging problem in Seward and every place else with revenues. And all these potential changes and sources of revenue are gonna have to be thought out very, very carefully, because what you don't wanna do is destroy a winning formula. And we have a winning formula. So, I think this deserves a lot more attention. What's there now works. It likely will not work into the future with the revenue forecast we're seeing. But for now, I think it's too abrupt to make any change. So I support the current motion to leave it as it is, and the wording that's changed would be perfectly appropriate.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else have any comments on the motion? Madam Clerk, could we take a roll call vote, please?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So is this an actionable item? Like, are you directing the clerk to send this recommendation to council, or how are you wanting to do that?
You know, I'll leave that to you whether you think that that is necessary, but I guess I'm making this motion to include this recommendation in my report to council.
Okay.
So I think that that would be enough as far as I'm concerned, if you don't think that it needs to go further than that.
No, I just want to make sure there
Okay.
wasn't anything that you needed me to do.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so voting on the motion, the Port and Commerce Advisory Board recommends making no changes to the high vessel property tax at this time pending further review. Jaffa?
Yes?
Lawrence?
Yes?
Smith?
Yes?
Lemus?
Yes.
Paquette?
Yes.
Yes.
Chair Snyder?
Yes.
This motion has been approved.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, review the Energy Committee's recommendations on the interconnect policy. Energy Committee, thank you. Oh,
One thing I should have started to introduce Corey. Corey Wergerson. He's the interim utility manager at Electric Department. He was introduced to council, you might not have seen it, so I thought I'd introduce you to him before you get into this next
yeah,
subject.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Norm.
Thank you and welcome.
Oh, thank you.
I would like to thank the Energy Committee for meeting during this busy summer. I got a great update from the committee before this meeting, so I would like to turn it over to someone on that committee to kind of talk about what conclusions you came to.
Okay.
That would be.
All right. So, yes, since last time we met, Mr. Fouts has left the city. I'd like to thank him for his service while he was here. And since that, and of course with the COVID thing, I think it wasn't really appropriate to write a new policy. So so I had a conversation with Corey regarding that, and we worked through some of the issues with it, and then of course I have the additions here to the packet. So as I understand it, the city is committed to this endeavor, and with our citizen involvement from Mr. Kaluza in particular, we can see that we still have some work to do. And I'd like, I guess at this time, maybe ask for a comment from Corey regarding where we are on this and what we have to do to kind of expedite these procedures, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much. And when I start, I'd like to throw out a great comment about Bruce Jaffa. I was able to work with him in the northern end of the rail belt, and he and his company is provide amazing services for the utility industry. It's just extraordinary. I'm very pleased to be here, and I'm kind of apologize a little bit because of all the balls in the air that came in when I came in on June 23rd. They keep kind of dropping down a little bit, and this is one that came to me, and I would like to let you know that I acknowledge and I agree with the observations of this committee, that the offer and the ability to do interconnects is way too complicated, that we make it way too expensive. It reminds me of the fable of the stork and the fox, when the fox invites the stork over to eat but puts the food in a flat bowl so the stork can't get to it. It's kind of, it needs to be fixed. And I've been in contact with Mr. Kaluza. He wrote to me about 10 days ago, and I responded back to him. And I'm glad to work with him, glad to work with this committee, and I'm glad to see the work that this committee has already done, and you've got us a long way towards getting this done. What I propose to you is, though, I want to make sure we hear from all stakeholders, all issues, and maybe you will tell me you've already done that. We don't need to do it, but for a little bit of process and getting myself going and getting this done, I think I'd like to do it one quick time and without much delay. I said I could do it by the end of this month, in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I think I can draw on expertise from the other railroad utilities. Golden Valley had a very robust, we call it a SNAP program. We had over 320 folks who had put PV on their roofs or in their yards, wind turbines, everything. And we really encouraged it, and I understand the culture and the intent and the demand from our customers who want that. So I'm not talking about delay, but just a little time to make sure we got a complete process. It's going to take some resources from the city electric, and we've got those resources, and we will do it. And the idea is that very quickly we would come to a new way of, a simpler way of letting folks connect to our system. And I don't think we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm asking for a little time here to kind of bounce this ball a few times and get it down the road. I understand there's some of the issues that cause a lot of expenses, requiring a dedicated transformer. Some of the switching that's required is very complicated and very difficult. We need to be able to simplify that, but make sure that our linemen who work on the system are safe when there's an outage and there could be current coming from these systems back into our lines. But everyone else is able to do it, and we should be able to do it here in Seward. One thing I'll tell you, that the meters that we do have right now on folks who have solar panels on their roof, it does provide them the benefit of what the solar panels are producing. So you will see, if you put a solar panel on your roof with the meters that we currently have, that if your solar energy will reduce your input, what you take from the utility, and reduce your bills. And I've provided that documentation to Mr. Kaluza. So it's not like anyone who's currently got a solar panel up there is not getting the benefit of that solar. What we do not have is the bi-directional meters, where it will roll backwards when you're producing more energy than you're consuming. And you really want to do that because you want to encourage energy efficiency when you've got solar panels on your roof, so that you can have the benefit. I also believe that we got to look at what we pay folks when we do take their energy into our system, because I think the 5 cents a kilowatt hour, I might get chewed up by my boss over here. I don't think it adequately is compensating. So I've got these ideas, and I want to get them out to all stakeholders, including the city, including the linemen and everyone else like that, and come back to you. I can do it, I think, before the October meeting. And the other thing that I commit to Mr. Kaluza, we'll get these meters programmed so we can have the bi-directional meters. And we'll make progress before we go or make any changes. I think we can do that. So I'll stop there and answer any questions you might have.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, I have a question for you. I know we had talked about changing the topic of that work session during comments, but if I wanted to change the topic to this that we're discussing, could we do it at this time? Okay. So I was already going to bring up changing the topic of our work session for this month. It was supposed to be evaluating the blue pipeline, and the executive director of the chamber has asked for a little bit more time to do that. The blue pipeline is still going through some changes, and they don't quite have enough data for us to make a good decision on that. So we were planning to delay that topic, and since you've already proposed doing something before our next meeting, I would like to make a motion that we change the topic for our September 16th work session to evaluate the city's interconnect policy. Is that explanatory enough?
It is for me.
Okay. Okay, can I get a second on that motion?
I'll
Mayor,
second.
Paquette seconds?
just want to make sure he has enough time to get that.
We'll have the stakeholder, we'll get notice out to anyone that wants to talk about this, and we'll have some also expertise from the other utilities that can talk about their systems. And it's aggressive, but we'll make that.
Okay.
The packet materials that have to come out probably next week might be a little light, but we'll make sure that you've got a good presentation and materials for a work session.
And you are correct that we have discussed this at length in the past, but I think that I think that it's a great idea for us to all come back to the table, especially in a work session setting, and see this all laid out on the table with some fresh eyes on it.
Especially since it's yes now instead of no.
It is.
Thank you. It's so refreshing. I'm excited.
Any discussion on the motion on the table? The motion again is to change the work session topic. Any comments on that? All right, Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Who was
Oh.
your second?
Oh, excuse me.
On the motion, I would support the motion, but, you know, we've spent a lot of time on this, and we need to somewhat focus on a solution to get this thing resolved. And I appreciate the comments from our new director, Mr. Borgeson. I've known Corey for many years, and I appreciate the kind things he said. And I know that he'll bring strong, thoughtful, and responsible directorship and thought to this decision. But this has got to come to a head. The PACAB has come out strongly in favor of this. The city council has come strongly in favor of this. And, you know, the procedure issues that Mr. Kalusa has mentioned in his letter should be able to be resolved internally by the electrical department themselves without PACABs getting involved in it. But the work session would certainly welcome to get this out again. But I think the Director Borgeson needs a little bit of time to work this out, and I'm sure it will be. I would vote in favor of the motion.
Thank you. I would also say that code has already been changed, and that the internal checklists and that the application, none of that is required to be set in code. So again, as Mr. Jeff has said, those are internal policies. We were having issues last year with the interpretation of the policies and their implementation. So I think that at this work session, we don't need to take any further action, but this would be a good forum for all of those ideas to come together for you to learn how the community wants to move forward with this policy.
Thanks, Kim.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, just one comment on that.
Yeah.
I do believe there are things in the interconnect policy that do need still further
still need
revision.
changing.
So
Okay.
there was changes that made it easier, but there's a few more things to take care of. So,
Okay.
thank you.
If I'm, Chair?
Yes.
If I might add a little bit on Mr. Jaffa's comments, you're going to see, and it's still going to take some time, but you're going to see a can-do attitude from your electric department. And even though we're going to change this and we have discussions, I'm getting calls currently from installers and the like about how we have to do with the city, and we're going to provide them the simplest way we can under the current existing code to make it work. And it's going to be we can do this, and we're going to make it as easy as possible for you. So we're not going to wait, and we're not going to hold people back because we're changing this, so we got to wait till we change it. We will start changing it and embracing it and making it happen. And, you know, we really need to do it because the tax incentives are changing and adjusting, and we've lost an opportunity here in Seward already. So I get that, and to the extent people need to get this done here before the year is over, we're going to start right away.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. We should take a vote on the motion on the floor, which is to change the work session topic for our October 16th work session.
September 16th.
Excuse me, September 16th. Oh, goodness, don't want to jump that far ahead. For our September 16th work session and I don't remember what
Evaluate city interconnect policy.
evaluate the city interconnect policy. Thank you so much for keeping my thoughts together for me.
So voting on the motion, Paquette,
Yes?
Lemus,
Yeah.
Lawrence,
Yes.
Jaffa,
Yes?
Smith,
Yes.
Chair Snyder.
Yes.
This motion has been approved, and the September 16th work session topic will now be evaluate the city interconnect policy.
Thank you so much. All right, last item under new business is discuss the energy fair. Energy committee, do you? Oh.
I have another meeting starting at 1. I have to go.
Okay, thank
Aaron.
you,
Thanks, Aaron.
thank you.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Okay.
Well, my only input on that would be, we need to postpone it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't even see how we can talk about a fair at this point.
Yeah, I think that is the discussion is, can we have a,
I mean, if we're not gonna do the holiday fair, geez, you know.
So,
Ben, did you have some thoughts on this?
yeah, if it's, I know that the electric department doesn't have enough to do, but my recommendation would be to respectfully request the electric department do a Zoom webinar on how to interconnect, if they're willing. And I'd be happy to help with that.
Sometime like maybe November, you thinking?
In the
or-
future.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Like maybe
Not
sometime
nothing,
this
yeah,
year.
not
but-
tomorrow,
Yeah,
sometime
I
in the
could get
future.
behind that.
Yeah. I really like that idea. I know that we had talked previously about the energy fair maybe being more the city putting out some helpful information for people about how to winterize properly for the winter and just some good public service announcement type things, and those could all be done
Those could all be done.
virtually. So I think it would be good to pursue that. And maybe throughout the course of the winter to have some things too. Since we're not going to have events, it would be kind of nice to have some.
It would be, and of all years, this is a year where everybody's gonna be watching every penny they have. So maybe a Zoom on, you know, like break it down into smaller topics like winterizing your windows. You know, have that be one thing, and then how to do the interconnect is another one, and yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, and I don't want to put too much pressure or take too much time from city staff, but I do think that the Public Works and the Electric Department could have some really good things to put out there for the public good. How do you guys propose that we move this forward as a board? How would you like to approach this? Maybe we can come up with some recommendations for topics
Yeah.
and give it to council and ask that council direct the city manager to direct his department heads to put out some public service announcements about these topics, just as a recommendation. Does that sound reasonable?
Yep.
So perhaps Energy Committee, would you be willing to take on the task of putting together a short, manageable list of what those topics would be to bring forward at our next meeting for approval?
Sure.
Yeah.
As a recommendation to council?
That would be
Sure.
a good idea, yes.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay.
Well, I think we discussed the energy fair, unless anyone has any additional comments to add. I really like this idea. So thank you guys for your time and effort on this. Seeing none, informational items and reports. We have our budget in the packet through August 21st. We're going to do our part to help out the general fund by not using a lot of our budgeted expenses since we haven't had any travel this year. That brings us to citizen comments. There are none. Okay, so commission and administration comments. Let's start with Board Member Jaffa on the phone. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Sheriff Snyder, I'm sorry I couldn't attend. I have limited trips into Seward these days, but I will try to make the next work session. I'm encouraged that we're getting back into a routine of meeting. I think we have important contribution to the city, and in this time, a little stability of boards and supporters, I think would be very important. And I would like to take the time to welcome Corey. I'm delighted that Seward is going to benefit from someone of his caliber. I see tremendous possibilities, and I'm sure that Seward is blessed by that. I'd also say that the quick trip that I did make down to Seward recently really shows Seward, and sometimes not being in the middle of something all the time gives you a better sight radius. I know all of you who are down there in Seward every day enjoy it as well as anyone else, but coming into Seward is always a wonderful refilling. And the activity, the business activity that I see, and the generally cooperative nature of everybody down there is heartwarming. So I'm glad to serve on the board and help with that in any way I can.
Well, thank you so much. Board Member Smith?
Thank you. I guess one of the summer's obviously is testing everybody, and one of our major players in town here, I want to recognize what the Alaska Sea Life Center was able to pull off with. It was really amazing, and seeing how the state, really the people of the state of Alaska and elsewhere came together to make sure that they could keep going. I know that's been on the council topics. So another milestone there with JAG and the Navy contract. That's huge, and it's really exciting to see that, and all the work from everybody, Harbor Department, and that's a big deal. So those are good things. Again, Seward's demonstrating its responsibility and its resilience, and I think we can continue to move forward. And thank you to Corey for the renewed faith here that we'll get this interconnecting done. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Lawrence?
I think I just reiterate what everybody else said. It's great to be back in meetings. I will not be here at the work session, but I might try and phone in.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Paquette?
Welcome to the Assistant City Manager. It's nice to have you on board. And welcome to Corey. And I just want to say that this meeting with masks is hard because you could not see me grinning from ear to ear as you were speaking. So I just want to reiterate that I think everybody is really thrilled with your attitude about what we're going to do in the future. So welcome. It is nice to get back to normal. It's nice to, this isn't really normal because everybody's not on the dais yet, but just it's nice to get back into a groove. This was a very difficult summer for everybody. And a big congratulations to the Sea Life Center for pulling that off, because it's a huge thing for Alaska and Seward. And I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to the new members of the administration. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Norm, thank you as always. You're our rock. I'd like to remind everyone that the end of this month is the end of the census. So September 30th is the last day. And Seward, our numbers are still lagging. Enumerators are out there doing follow-ups for non-responses. And I'm not sure that my message here is going to reach the right people, but remember to remind all of your friends and your contacts. This should be front of our minds because it's so important for our community that we have a proper count. So please have conversations with people about the confidentiality of the census and the importance of it, because we really, really need to get our response rate up. I am so grateful that we're able to have the teleconferencing option so that Bruce can join us in these times. I think that it's a great option. I don't know what the future will hold and how we'll move forward, but I do think that it's a really important tool, and I'm happy that we're able to have people join us as voting members via telephone. It is good to be back. I feel like this summer has been so strange, but it has gone so quickly that I can't believe we're in September, but I'm really happy to be back to work and to be back with this board. And we have a lot of work to do this fall, and I look forward to working with you all. Thank you so much for being here. Harbor Master, I'm so sorry, I forgot to go to you.
So I just want to jump on what you said about JAG coming here. I actually received a phone call from Congressman Young about JAG, about working with JAG and working with the Navy for the additional security and everything they have. So he said he's going to try to work on getting more Navy ships coming to Seward. So you have a congressman call you personally. So I think that's a huge thing for Seward, huge for Seward. If
Yeah.
we get more of these Navy ships coming in. So I just wanted to touch
Absolutely.
base on that.
And so great for jobs for this winter. You know, what I can say is I know there was a lot of trepidation in the community when JAG came in because we'd gotten burned with other contractors, but I think they've really held up their end of the bargain. They're bringing a lot of good business to Seward, and I think that's wonderful. Well, thank you for that addition.
And just a
Remember,
reminder to register to vote.
Yes.
Locally, the
thank you.
deadline is Friday.
Thank you. Yes, the deadline for the October election, which is our borough and city election, is this Friday. And you can register online, you can register at the clerk's office in person. Any options that I'm missing there?
No. So,
No.
for the city clerk's office, the deadline is this Friday at 5. If you register online with the state of Alaska, you have until Sunday.
Okay, that's good information to know. All right, yes, everyone register to vote. We have 2 elections coming up in the next 2 months, and we all need to make our voices heard. Thank you again so much. With that, I'm adjourning this meeting at 1:11.
111.
1:11.
The next meeting.